Hello, thank you for tuning into this information session recording about learning enterprises and the programs that we offer. This recording is really going to focus on three main themes. Firstly, who we are and what we do. Secondly, we'll take a broad look at some of our programs, some of the common features of all of our programs. If you're looking for more specific information on each of our different programs, then I would advise you to move to the second information session recording, which has specific information on all of the different programs run by Learning Enterprises. And finally, we'll finish off by looking at the next steps. So if you're interested in what you see, what is the application process like, and what are the steps that you need to take? So we'll start off by looking at who we are. So Learning Enterprises was established in 1992, and we're a 501c3 not-for-profit organisation. We exist primarily to send English speakers to villages across the world who ask us for a volunteer English-speaking teacher for the summer. So we act as the conduit between English speakers who want to volunteer abroad and communities who want to have a volunteer English speaker in their schools or local community centres for a summer. And the basic concept is that our volunteers live with a host family in their local community. This has a number of advantages. The first main advantage is that it gives you complete immersion in the local community. So imagine if you were living on your own, it might be difficult to get to know people, it might be difficult to get to know how the community actually works, it might be difficult to find out about that local culture, but because you are living with a host family, you're immersed in it from day one. So you really get a very profound understanding and knowledge of the local community. But secondly, it's beneficial because it helps to keep the cost of the program down. It keeps the cost down for you, it keeps the cost down for the organization, and it's also it's a very equitable way of running the program from the perspective of the community in which you're volunteering, because most of the time you'll volunteer with generally a wealthier member of the village, so somebody who can afford the cost of keeping up a volunteer for the summer, but you'll teach generally in a local public school. So the benefit of you being there will be shared amongst everyone, but primarily the main costs of you being there, they'll fall upon people who are best able to afford it. So it's a very egalitarian structure, and it's one that works well. Villages come back to Learning Enterprises every year looking for another teacher, looking for more teachers. So there's a very positive uptake with the model that we have, and it's one that's been quite effective since 1992. We're completely student run, and this is another important aspect, and it helps us to keep our costs down, and it means that it enables us to run a very tight ship. All of our staff are volunteers and former alumni. We do what we do not for wages, not for as a job, but primarily and purely out of a love of the organisation and a desire to give back to Learning Enterprises. Because of this, we don't charge a program fee. So Learning Enterprises is a very affordable option if you're put off by the expensive alternatives that other organizations offer. LE primarily tries to keep the cost as low as possible so that as many people can volunteer on the basis of their desire to give back to another community and their ability to do that well, and not on the basis of their ability to pay a program fee. And another important point that we really emphasize is that we believe in our volunteers. You control your experience. You decide what you're going to do in the classroom, and you really create the summer for yourself. There won't be somebody there to hold your hand the whole way through. So it's something that we believe in our volunteers, and we put a lot of responsibility into their hands. So why should you join an LE program this summer? Well, the first reason would be to be of service to a community who needs your skills and talents. Your particular skill is presumably that you can speak English either as your native tongue or you can speak it fluently. And a community needs somebody in their local school or community centre who can speak English fluently, and they've asked for you. So if you want to be of service to that community and provide your skills and talents and abilities, then this is a program for you. And of course, you may have many other skills. You may have a background in teaching, or you may be a creative person, you may be an artistic person, you may be interested in literature and working with young people. You could have a broad array of skill sets that you want to bring to your local community and perhaps to the organization as well. Secondly, it's a great opportunity to discover another culture and also to be an ambassador for your own. So you can go to another country and you can talk about where you come from. You can present your culture, your customs, your way of life to people who may have no concept or no idea of how you live your life in your own country, and it may be very different from where you're volunteering. And furthermore, you can be exposed then to the way that they live and to the different ideas that they have, the different customs that they have, and an entirely different way of life. So it's a great way to broaden your horizons. Thirdly, if you want to work for an international non-profit, then LE could be for you as well. Obviously, while you're a volunteer in country for the summer, you're working for a non-profit, but you can stay involved in learning enterprises after your work as a volunteer. You could become a campus director with us, helping us to recruit and train next year's volunteers. You could be a program director running one of our programs. You could start a new program, or you could join our exec and be in charge of running the organization as a whole. So it's a great opportunity to be a part of a very significantly quite big international not-for-profit. And finally, if you want to meet like-minded people, people who are passionate about volunteering, people who are passionate about promoting educational standards across the world, and giving young people a chance to learn English, to learn other subjects, to develop a love of learning, and to be able to make the best of the increasingly globalized community that we live in. If you want to meet people like that, and also meet people from new communities, then LE, I think, would suit you very well. And also, of course, you would become a part of our vast alumni body, which is something which I think could be quite useful at some point in the future as well, or at the moment as well. So what is our mission? Well, our mission breaks down into 5 key points, really. Primarily, we're about fostering creativity, and that's creativity amongst everybody who works for the organization. So whether you are a member of staff, whether you're a volunteer, whether you're one of our students, we want to give you the space to express your creativity, to bring your skills and abilities to the organization, to bring that into the classroom, and to be creative and to teach English in a creative and different way, and in a way which inspires students to take a love of the language, but also to use your creativity to act as a cultural exchange, to work for the organization, to bring your talents to the organization. We're all about allowing people to develop the potential of their creativity, to bring their abilities and their skills and their ideas into the classroom or into the organization, and to help their students to grow and to prosper and to develop. And that's our primary goal. Our second goal then is a bit more standard. What we want to do is to expand horizons through the use of English. But again, this applies to all our participants. We want to expand the horizons of our volunteers by allowing them to use their unique skill set to go and discover new cultures. But similarly, in the cultures where they are, in the communities where they are living, we want to empower young people and young students by giving them and inspiring in them a love of the English language, which hopefully will encourage them to continue to learn and to study English diligently, and to develop that skill and to use that skill to give themselves some opportunities for to create the life for themselves that they want in, as I mentioned, the globalized community that we live in today. Third, we're all about cross-cultural exchange. We want to see different communities exchange the best that they have in each other and to learn about each other. We want to be a focal point for people to live together in a very tolerant society. Fourthly, we're very passionate about the idea of volunteering. We think volunteering is a great idea, and we think that it has delivered fantastic results, both for our organization and for communities across the world in many different circumstances down through the years. And we want to encourage volunteering. We think it's great. And we're proud to stand up and to say that we're volunteers. We believe in the mission of the organization, and we believe in the importance of teaching, and of teaching English in particular, and teaching languages generally. And we want to do this for free, and we want to do this because these communities need our skills and services. They don't maybe have the resources that they should have, and we want to fill that gap through volunteering. So we're about emphasizing how great volunteering can be and how positive a thing it can be for our society. And finally, we want to provide rewarding work experience for young people, both in country and on return. The kind of responsibility that we entrust in our volunteers, it's hard to find other employers or organizations who would give that kind of responsibility to their volunteers, or to their employees. We will put you in front of a classroom of students and say, you come up with the lesson plan and you run that class, and you decide what you want to do in that class, and you try and get your students as motivated and as passionate as possible about English. We'll give you a hand, we'll help you out, we'll try and give you the space to do it as well as possible. but ultimately it's your responsibility. Or if you become a program director, it will be your responsibility to run the entire program. If you join the executive staff, it'll be your responsibility to run this great organization. You will be the person running it. So throughout either the summer to come or your time with Ellie in the future, we will give you a huge amount of responsibility. We'll give you important work to do, and that's something which I think is quite difficult to find in a lot of organisations where you may end up doing unfulfilling or unrewarding work. That won't be the case with learning enterprises. So the very simple idea of Ellie, to put it in a nutshell, during the academic year, we recruit volunteers. Meanwhile, in our program countries, country coordinators are getting schools and host families together. And LE exists to bring those two communities together. So our campus directors and our program directors will select the volunteers, and our country coordinators will select the host families and the schools. And we exist to bring the two together so that both can have a mutually beneficial exchange and can benefit from their summer together. So our programs, what are the general things that we can say about all of our programs? Well, there's three types of programs that you can apply for. And before you apply for a program, I think it's worthwhile spending a little bit of time thinking about what kind of experience you want to have with LE. And once you've decided the kind of experience that you have with LE, that will help you to decide the kind of program that you want to join. So you could apply to one of our pilot programs. And a pilot program is generally in its first or second year of operation. Because of that, it may not be very well established in the local community. We may not have very close connections with host families or schools. There may be constant challenges during the course of the pilot program, which makes it something of an unknown. And it means that, to be frank, you probably need to have a sense of adventure because you're breaking new ground. You're doing something for the first time in a new community. That said, it's hugely rewarding because the work that you're doing, if you do it well, you could lay the foundation of what could be a very successful program at some point in the future. So when you think of the impact that your work can have on years to come, on students to come, it's a hugely rewarding thing to do. So a pilot program is an option. A second option is a transitioning program. And a transitioning program, the way that we define this is to say that they are currently lacking one or more of the key aspects of learning enterprises program. So it could be that they were a pilot program and they're now developing, but they're still not quite there. They're still lacking something. Or it could be that they were a developed program and now they've gone back to being a transitioning program because they've lost something that was essential. But ultimately, the key issue here is that they're more developed than a pilot program, but they're still missing something that a developed program would have. And a developed program is an established program that has been running for several years, and things tend to work very smoothly in these programs because we know the communities that we're dealing with, we know the people that we're dealing with, all the links and the connections have been made, and because it's been done so many times, generally the operation runs quite smoothly. So think about what you want and think about the kind of program that you'd like to be a part of, and then you can make a good decision. All of our programs follow a basic structure. You'll start off with orientation, which is where you'll spend the first couple of days of your program preparing to teach and live in country. You'll work with your program director, work with the country coordinator of the program, and there'll be a number, and all of the other volunteers will be at orientation as well. So you'll meet everybody who you'll be working with during this first week, and you'll do some work on how to teach. You'll do some work on culture within the community, and you'll also prepare for the time that you're going to spend there. So orientation is a very important first step. Then you'll go into your schools or your community centres and you'll teach for a couple of weeks, and then you'll join up again from midpoint with your program director, with your country coordinator, and with the other volunteers. And this would be an opportunity to reflect on how things are going and to share ideas. And then at the end of the program, you'll do a wrap up, and that'll be an opportunity to reflect on what's passed at the end of the program, to give your feedback and to consider what can be done for next year. Furthermore, before the program begins, all volunteers will undertake a common teacher training program prior to departure, which will take place both on campus and online. And this will require you to attend a session on campus or online if there isn't a day happening on a campus near you, and will also require you to do certain work online and to complete certain modules online as well. So you will be prepared, and we'll help you in your preparation before you go teaching. But as I say, it's still up to you what you want to do in the classroom. It's still your responsibility to make sure that you do a good job there. So if you're interested in LE, what are the next steps? So the application is quite straightforward. You start off by paying an application fee, and that fee depends on when you apply. It will either be $20 if you apply before the priority deadline, or it will be $30 if you apply thereafter. And once you've paid the fee, you'll be directed onto a page which will have a short application form. The application form is very short. It takes about 10-15 minutes for you to fill out. The answers are not particularly demanding and they're not particularly long either. Once you've submitted that application, you'll be contacted by your campus director, and they may or may not offer you an interview depending on the answers that you submitted to those questions. Once that interview has taken place, and that could take place either on campus or on Skype, you'll then be passed on to the program director if the campus director feels that you have shown sufficient qualities to be a part of learning enterprises. You can choose up to 2 first choice programs. So if you don't get the one that you choose first, you can also be interviewed for your second program. So in most cases, you'll probably be interviewed by the program of your first choice program, though in the instance that that program has filled up, you'll go straight to your second choice program. If you're not offered a place in either of your top 2 programs, you may also be offered an interview at another program, though that's not a guarantee. Either way, you will get, if you get through the campus director interview, you will be interviewed by someone, and we will try to join you up with a program which you have indicated and expressed a preference for. It's worth bearing in mind that applications are rolling, so the sooner you apply, the better. We won't wait until the last day of applications to start offering places. We'll offer places as we go along. So the sooner you apply, the better. How much it will cost is obviously an important question. So first and foremost is a $20 application fee before the priority deadline, and it'll be $30 for any applications received thereafter. As I mentioned earlier on, we don't charge a program fee, but we do ask volunteers to fundraise about $150 to $200 for the organization. This is very important money for the organization. We wouldn't be able to continue without that money, so your help here is hugely appreciated. We also advise that you bring some small gifts for your host family. When you live in country, your essentials are covered by your host family. So food, accommodation, any essential material that you need, your host family will cover you for that. They'll also look after you, they'll take care of you day to day, and generally you'll develop a very close relationship and a close bond with them. So you'll want to bring some gifts to express your gratitude and your appreciation for what they've done. That said, you don't have to bring the most expensive gifts, and we would generally encourage you not to. Something small and meaningful from your home country, which says something about you, I think can be the most effective type of gift which can show your appreciation. Depending on the program that you volunteer for, you may need to take vaccinations, and you may also need to apply for a visa, and of course both of those cost money as well. LE requires each volunteer to submit a $500 security check. Now, we'll only cash this check if you drop out of the program after you sign the contract committing to do learning enterprises. So let's imagine you've gone through the whole application process. You've just been selected for a program. We'll send you out forms that you need to sign. You'll sign these forms, and then once you sign the forms, you have committed yourself to the company, signed a contract to LE, and you're committed to that company. If you drop out, the check which you send us will be cashed. But if you complete the summer, then we won't cash that check. So that shouldn't be a cost that will arise, but it's something that you should be mindful of. And the final point, LE won't take responsibility for your travel costs. We don't pay for you to go to your program country. We just can't afford that. It's not feasible. So think carefully about whether you can afford the program that you're applying for in terms of actually getting it. Now, this year, we do have a travel fund, which is available to volunteers after they've been selected. However, it's worth bearing in mind that selection is highly competitive, and you should not apply for learning enterprises on the basis of being able to pay for your travel upon receiving a travel grant. So in other words, if you can't afford the flights, you probably shouldn't apply for that particular program. Don't apply hoping that you'll get the grant and then you'll be able to pay for it, because it's only a small amount of money and it's only going to a small number of people. However, it's worth bearing in mind that if you don't actually have the money, maybe you should look at other sources. Many alumni have been previously successful in applying for funding from their college, for example. So look at the other opportunities, look at the other options that are there, see if you can get the money together. And if you can, then it's definitely something. Then, once you have your costs covered, then you're good to go. It's also worth questioning not just whether the program that you're applying for is you, but also whether the general idea of learning enterprises is for you. So you decide what you do in the classroom. We're not going to hold your hand. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're not going to give you a curriculum of things to teach. You'll have to take responsibility for the work that you do in class. We will help you, and we'll provide you with as many resources as we can, and we'll try to aid your preparation as much as possible, but you take responsibility for what you do. Secondly, bear in mind that we expect that our volunteers will volunteer beyond the classroom as well. So you'll be expected to teach between 4 to 6 hours a day. You'll never teach more than 24 hours a week, generally speaking. But at the same time, your volunteering isn't just the classroom. It's also about helping out in the local community, spending time with your host family, maybe getting involved in community projects, organizing events in your local community. We want you to constantly be of service. And every day that you volunteer with Learning Enterprises, we want you to think in your head, how can I be of service to my local community? Third, bear in mind that LE is run by student volunteers. We've no full-time staff, and that means that we can't look after you on a full-time basis. We can only look after you on a part-time basis. We're doing exams or working in jobs as well. And that's something to bear in mind. We need people in our organization who are independent and self-sufficient. It's not to say that you'll be completely on your own, but it is to say that you will need to try and look after yourself in the first instance. And if that's not possible, then you can ask for help. But we do need independent people who are able to stand on their own 2 feet and who don't need their hands to be held at all times. Bear in mind the times can get tough in foreign countries. It's not easy to move to an entirely different culture, and you'll often probably find that the first week or two will be quite difficult and quite challenging as you adjust. Are you able for that change? Are you the kind of personality who will thrive in that? Are you the kind of personality who will just want to go home? And bear in mind that unexpected challenges are guaranteed. So it's not just about the challenges that you might expect of working in a foreign country, but also things will crop up that you probably won't have expected. Will you be able to deal with that? Obviously, if things get out of hand, there's a program director and a country coordinator in your program who will be able to help you. But again, self-sufficiency and independence is required. We need you to be able to stand up for yourself and to be able to look after yourself to as much an extent as is practically possible. So if you have any questions, you can visit our website. We have lots of materials on the website. You can also email us if you have a specific question which isn't answered there, and our address is info@learningenterprises.org. And you can also email the program director of the countries that you're interested in, or you can email the campus director of the campus who is responsible for your campus or for your particular region. And you can get all of their email addresses and details on the website. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that has encouraged you to apply for a Learning Enterprises program. We're looking forward to reading your application and having you involved in the organization very soon. So please do consider very carefully applying. And as I say, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.